thoughts in your mind that you aren't good enough, that you'll never be successful? If so, you're not alone. I've had those thoughts playing in my mind ever since I took the leap to become an entrepreneur. It's a dirty, dark secret that no one likes to talk about, as the glamorization of becoming an entrepreneur is shown in the media. I realized that in order to succeed, I needed help. We all do. So I decided to go all in on myself, spending thousands of hours in the trenches, reading, joining groups, listening to podcasts, hiring coaches to develop a bulletproof morning routine for success. Join me on my journey as together we build our morning fire to ignite our lives as entrepreneurs. My name is Jeff Wickersham, and this is the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to have EA Csolkovits on the show today. EA, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. On the last name, you almost had it. We had the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Listen, I tried. We practiced before. I really tried hard.
When the emphasis is on the wrong syllable, that happens. So it's actually Csolkovits, and I have to tell you, usually there's just a big pause. And over the years, I just got called EA, which is actually my first and middle initial, and I just sort of settled in on it because of the whopper last name that throws everyone for a loop. In fact, even myself, sometimes there's people I call and say, "How do I say that again?" So anyway,
right. That's too funny. Awesome. Well, welcome to the show. Let's get into state. So what I love to do is do 3 power breaths in, breathing in through the belly, up through the chest. We'll raise our hands above our head. Let's go ahead and breathe in and out. Good. Another breath in and out. Final breath in and out. All right, now we're going to get the energy level up. Not that it's not already at a pretty darn high level, but I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. We're going to yell boom at the top of our lungs and pound our chest in 3, 2, 1, and boom!
Boom!
There you go. Love it. Thank you. Thank you for playing along. So EA, I eat, sleep, breathe, morning habits, rituals, routines. I feel that they are the foundation for success when you start your day. What are 1 or 2 things you do first thing in the morning that creates that energy, that path towards success?
I can share with you that I would say, a highly regimented person. So I mean, I'm very, very consistent. I put my car keys in the exact same micro spot every day. So, I mean, is that kind of mindset, if you will. So I use this little thing, which I really appreciate, and it's actually on my phone, and it's basically like, a daily calendar. I'm sorry, you're not able to see that. It just looks all white, but it actually, and I have my whole day laid out. So the night before, I'm already working on my next morning, because before I go to sleep, I look at, okay, these are all the things I'm doing tomorrow. These are things I repeat every day that are automatic things I'm going to do. And these are other things that are going to be happening during the day, interviews, et cetera, et cetera. So when I get up in the morning, I'm pretty much up and I know this sounds crazy, but at 5:50 every morning. And I get up, and then my first things usually are, I have a very detailed regimen where I'll make sure, any phone calls or messages came in through the night, because I silence my phone, so it doesn't interfere in the evening. So I unsilence it, double check anything there. Then I go into look at my calendar again. Okay, what are the events today, and what are the priorities? There's the must do things, and there's if I don't quite get to them, that's okay. I can move them to the next day things. So I have those all mapped out. Then separate from that, I also take a legal pad like this. This is today. And I don't know if you can see, but there's already a lot of things that are marked off on there. And I do 1 page every single day.
Okay.
This is the priority page. These are the things that at the end of the day, it has to look like yesterday's, which, if you can see, everything's scribbled off. So those are just handwritten notes I make through the day of the priorities, to make sure when I put my head on my pillow, I finished everything I needed to get done that day that was a priority. And then, so after all that, which is the first things, right after waking up, then I do my Bible reading. I read the Bible cover to cover every single year, from beginning to end. And it's actually quite simple. It's simpler than most people think. Just 3 chapters from the Old Testament, 20 verses from the New Testament, and you'll read it cover to cover by time January 1st to December 31st. So I do that every single year habitually. And then I do usually I have I like to contribute to all the social medias with, some valuable bit of content every day. So I usually post that right around that time. And then I go right into my workout, 4 days a week. I lift weights. And then another 2 days a week, I do cardio. So pretty much, 6 day a week kind of thing.
Okay.
And then I usually do intermittent fasting through that. So, usually by around 10 o'clock in the morning or so, I'm having my first meal and then going throughout the day. So, but I'm pretty much like right on the money, minute by minute through the entire day, but certainly my mornings as well. And I think that's an important part because then it sets us up because we like to strive for those things. And so many times we develop the habits of thinking and of doing that are down the wrong path.
Right.
And, I've got that path is all predetermined every single day. And interestingly enough, I can share with you that path also has a destination 30 years from now. I literally have a 30-year plan, week by week, month by month for the next 30 years. And how does that happen? With what I started with this morning.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I love the piece of looking at what your schedule is going to be like the night before. So, the mind's going to kind of work through what you're doing tomorrow when you've looked at, hey, what's my calendar, what's my priorities are. So I love that piece. So for the audience, EA, give a short, brief background on kind of what your experiences have been as an entrepreneur. And I know we want to get into what a giver is and what a taker is and really dive into that subject a little bit deeper.
And I want to let you know that I'm always willing to overcome challenges, including the one you just gave me, which is to say something briefly. Because as your listeners will quickly find out, I never say anything in 10 minutes if I can say it in 20. Anyway, so my background actually I can just share is, it was very humble upbringing. I live in Michigan now, but the first 30 years of my life, I lived in Chicagoland area. My father was a milkman. I'm 65 years old now. So, back when I was 5 years old, I used to help him on his milk route every morning, and milk came in glass containers back then and glass jugs, gallons. And then at the ripe old age of 16 years old, I had two huge events. On previous interviews, I actually go through detail, but they were pretty astonishing. One of them was I as a janitor, I was able to clean the home of a woman who had the third most controlling stock in McDonald's.
Wow.
And if you've seen the movie, The Founder with Michael Keaton, talks about McDonald's. It's all about McDonald's story. I can tell you that movie, it was out a couple of years ago. That whole background, that's how Hollywood spin. I lived it. I lived in Oak Brook where the world headquarters was. And so Ray Kroc really wasn't the way the movie is. That's all Hollywood spin, but it is based on actual events. In the movie, Michael Keaton, Ray Kroc, is constantly talking to a lady outside his office. That lady outside his office is the lady whose house I cleaned every single Wednesday. That was June Martino, and a janitorial service I worked for went in there. And that was my first real touch and experience with super wealthy people. I mean, and the amazing thing was that she was so approachable, so easy to talk to. And I one day got up enough of courage and asked her about the McDonald's story. And she took me in the kitchen and as a 16-year-old told me the entire story from where she worked for Ray Kroc from the beginning, before when he was just a milkshake mixer salesman before he met the brothers, all the way through to that minute. And then I realized when she told me the story that my key and what I realized right then was I needed a mentor. I didn't know what a mentor was, but I knew I didn't know what I needed to know. And from that, I just sort of threw it out there. And that's really important. That's why I appreciate Jeff about, the importance of getting your morning off to the right start. Part of what you do at your podcast is because that's so critical. And the questions we ask ourselves are so critical. And so inadvertently, I just threw it out there. Where's my Ray Kroc? I need a Ray Kroc. I need someone to teach me. And it wasn't 3 or 4 months later, I genuinely met that man who would become my mentor, my Ray Kroc. His name was Sam Robbins, and he would become the father I never had, even though I had a father, and I would become the son he never had, even though he had a son. And he began to rewire those burnt out things in my mind, the thoughts of a son of a milkman.
Right.
And, the thoughts of a janitor and, thinking my high point of the day is getting free songs on a jukebox at 2 a.m. when I'm cleaning bowling alleys, to becoming prosperous and how to do that. And one of the things I asked my mentor was, I said, I want to become a millionaire. How do I do that? He said, well, the first thing you got to do is get $1 million. I thought, well, yeah. He said, but I'll tell you the hardest part. And I said, what's that? He said, this really is the hardest part. And I said, okay, what is that? He said, believing you're worth it. That's the hardest part. And I can share with you, listening to him. What I'm about ready to say is not braggadocious, and I don't mean it that way, but I want to share with your listeners the importance of having a highly qualified, good mentor. And because of my mentor, because I was just dumb enough to listen to what he told me and apply it. That's it. I had the ability, generally, and it was probably one of my only abilities. I did have the ability, because of my humble background, to say, I don't know that. Could you teach me that? I want to learn that. And I think today everyone's so caught up with looking good and being the smart guy in the room or gal, and always, here's my personal brand and I've got to look this way. And they've lost the ability, in many instances I've observed, to simply be humble and say, that's really interesting. How would I learn that? Could you teach me about that? I'd like to learn about it. And so I just became a sponge because I knew I didn't know these things. So, and I didn't even know what to ask. So one of the things my business mentor taught me was, do not seek the answers. Everyone lives backwards. And he drilled this in my head. He said, everyone wants to know the answer. What's the answer to this? What's the answer to that? He says, wrong. Backwards. He said, focus on asking the right questions. He said, our lives become self-fulfilling prophecies. And when we ask the right questions, he said, the questions are omnipresent. They're always there. They always have been. They always will be. He said, we focus on asking the wrong questions. And these are also the questions we start asking ourselves first thing in the morning when we get up. I've met people who I quickly distance myself from, who they start out the day by saying, I wonder what can go wrong today.
Right.
Well, guess what? They're going to get the answer to that question. And then the part that's amazing, Jeff, is that they get surprised when they get the answer to the question they've been asking.
Right.
So by the way, I got to rewire that in my mind right there, because I don't even believe in that thought process. So and I share with you that my business mentor shared with me, focus on asking yourself the right questions and you'll always get the right answers. Get a mentor. For your listeners that don't have a mentor, if you don't have a good mentor, you know what we call that in my world? We call that naive. And these are the mentors that have done it, not the ones where you're paying them for their own education, where, or not the one that, they're wannabe mentors, but I mean, ones that have really done it, that can say, I did this, and this is how I can show you how to do this. And I found those people to be highly sharing and highly giving for someone who's genuinely interested in learning. So get a mentor and ask yourself the right questions. And then as events happen throughout the day, reframe those in a way so that because those events can either control us or we can control them. As my business mentor said, always be responding, don't be reacting. And he said, when your intellect controls your emotions, you are reacting. When your emotions control your intellect, you are reacting. As an example, in the medical community, if someone was getting a procedure and they said they're reacting to it, everyone knows that means it's not good. It's not working out right. But if the doctor said they're responding to it, that's good. We want to be in responsive mode all the time. And we do that by having this in order and having that in balance with this thing in our chest right here, and going forward and being a giver in our life.
Okay. So I loved that journey, needing a mentor. I loved how you got exposed to, extremely wealthy person. So that opened your eyes to it, right? When you were younger, and then you had the courage to ask for a mentor and put it out in the universe. And amazing things happen when you put it out into the universe.
Absolutely.
Right? All of a sudden, 3 to 4 months later, you found your mentor.
Boom. Boom. Happened just like that.
That's it. And that's what people need to so fully understand, is asking the right questions and ask for things that you need and want, not for, hey, how are things going to go bad today? And that's a choice. You have a choice, a powerful choice that you can make in that question. I know you mentioned givers. So let's define what is a giver and what is a taker, just for the audience, and let's get a little bit deeper into that.
Great. Thank you. At Givers University, to digress, by the way, because to lay the foundation for that answer, my business mentor, when I was 19 years old, I asked him, could you teach me everything? I mean, all of it. Could you teach me all of it? And he said, yes, but I want one thing from you. And I said, what's that? He said, when the time is right, and you will know that time, I want you to teach as many other people as possible everything I teach you. So that, along with, I was very blessed. I had a radio talk show, and I interviewed over 2 years, over 1,000 millionaires.
Wow.
In 2 years. And with all of the information and the great blessings I had of being able to ask them questions off the air, which I was really sincerely interested in, along with my mentor's training, that all manifested as a result of the vow and the oath I made at 19 years old to my business mentor that I would teach everyone else everything I learned. And that is today is what's called Givers University. And one of the heart of the things we teach is as follows, and it's not being taught anywhere else. Jeff, I swear to you, I do 1 to 3 interviews, podcast interviews a day right now. And I can share with you, no one's teaching this stuff anywhere. And it's so critical. And it is as follows. We teach people, first of all, I say, digress. We teach, and I share with all of your listeners, we love everybody. I say emphatically, we love everybody. And we teach something, and it goes as follows. We teach people how to separate the person who we love from their deeds, which we may not love. And we teach what's called discernment in relationships. Today in the world, we have businesses open and closing faster than ever before in history.
Right.
Products being antiquated overnight faster than ever before. What do we really have left? Our relationships. And no one's teaching us how to discern. Now, I'm a self-improvement geek. I love it. I'm positive you are, Jeff. I know that already. You've already demonstrated. I'm sure many of your listeners are. But here's what's not being taught. Jeff, what about the other guy? What if he's not doing it right? What should I do about that? And so what we do is we actually teach at a very granular level how to discern the difference of deeds between givers and takers. So when we say giver, we're not labeling a person, we're labeling their deeds. When we say taker, we don't label a person, we label their deeds. And what we actually do, Jeff, is we actually have identified actual deeds. These are actual things they do that you can observe. It's a skill, observing these things. And when we observe these things, we begin to discern, should I bring them closer into my life? Because givers always bring with them the 3 W's of wisdom, wealth, and wellness. I want those people around me.
Right.
Or because I see them doing these other things, should I begin to discern and now respectfully distance myself, not nasty or rude or insensitive, respectfully begin to distance myself, because when I bring them closer into my life, they're going to bring the 3 D's of a taker, which are defeatism, disruption, and destruction. So I ask your listeners, think of these 3 things. Think about the fires that you stomp out each day. Think about the times when your stress level goes right through the roof. Think about the conversations you have when you're through the conversation, you barely remember what it was about, but you do know one thing for sure, you have no more energy left. They just drained it all from you. Jeff, all 3 of those have one thing in common. There's a name attached to them. So what happens when we're stomping out fires? We're not producing results because the fire supplanted our result time. And the same with our stress and everything else. So what we do is we begin to teach people, discern in your relationships and look for very granular, not broad swaths of innocuous information where you say, oh, that sounds really good. And, I wonder what I do with that. It was like an interview a few days ago. A guy said, because man, this is really great stuff. I love this. He said, I just read this book and it says, I need to surround myself with 5 good people. I said, you're right. One question, which 5? And all of a sudden he was this blank look on his face. I said, do you see my point? No one's teaching us that skill. Which 5? Which are the 5 we should be surrounding ourselves or more to build our own Jeff's individual givers community around him, mine, right, other people as well, so that we are with people that help us produce our productivity, people that do not drain us from energy, but give us energy, and people that help us lower our stress level, not increase it. Well, how do you do that? How do you find those people, and what do you look for? And we don't judge people. We look at the deeds, and we teach people how to discern, even by virtue of checklists, free checklists that we give people. We want them to print off and use these checklists to help in your discerning of your relationships, so that you can be prosperous and happier much faster, because you haven't pulled these people in because no one taught you what to look for before you pulled them in.
Right. No, I really enjoy, right, the positive energy. I mean, anybody listening or watching live, you can feel the energy that EA and I have going back and forth. And I always say, when you have those examples of connections and relationships that you're talking about, it continues to build, right? I mean, I'm ready to run through a brick wall during this discussion, right?
Let's do it. Where is it? Boom, boom. Where is it?
And that's so incredibly powerful.
Yes, it is.
But if we don't question and really have intention around who we're putting in that circle, you have the opposite, where if you come into contact with somebody that is down low, they're going to bring you down from an energy level. They're going to raise themselves up. And just like you talked about, EA, once you have that conversation, you leave and you're exhausted. You've got no energy left because they've sucked the energy out of you, like an energy vampire, right? And it's just it's so incredibly powerful when you surround yourself with those people that build you up, because amazing things can get accomplished.
They do. When we think about just think about the influence that other people have on us and we have on them, also known as relationships. And to use sort of a little bit of an example, I was very blessed in becoming a commercial pilot and flying my own planes in years past. And one of the first things my CFI, certified flight instructor, when he sat in the seat next to me and we sat in a plane for the first time, he says, I'm going to teach you something real important about the window. I said, what's that? He said, whenever you're looking out the window and you see another plane, when we're up in the air, you always want to see the plane go from this size to this size while you're watching it. You never want to go from that size to that size when you're watching it. He said, because if it's getting bigger, that means it's coming at you and it may be 600 knots closure. It's going to happen fast and it's going to be brutal. We always want to have the planes getting smaller. So, we teach people real simple, Jeff. It's a plane. It's a plane. See, if you saw Fantasy Island, you'd know that. Okay. So it's so hard to work that into a conversation. You got to set it up, right? But anyway, so we teach people in their relationships, look for these things in advance. These are the actual deeds. There's certain commonalities and certain deeds you will see them doing that will help in your discernment, because it's just not being taught. How do I discern my relationships? How do I surround myself? What should I be looking for? Everyone says to do it, but no one says how to. So we took the other extreme, very granular, and identified the actual deeds that people should be looking for, and then decide and discern. Should I bring them in closer? Or is this someone I'm just going to do business with, but I'm going to keep them at a distance because, I don't like where they're coming from and I don't want the 3 Ds in my life, and they will make me collateral damage if I bring them closer.
Very, very, very interesting. So you mentioned Givers University. So where can people find you, EA, and connect?
They would simply go to giversuniversity.com. It's plural, giversuniversity.com. They can sign up for we have a free e-newsletter. We don't spam people, so they'll get an email right away that says, do you want to hear from these people? I sign up for things, and next thing you know, I'm getting 8 emails a day from them, and I just do unsubscribe, because they're just blasting me. So we send out 1 email a week.
Okay.
On Thursdays. And it has great relationship tools that they can put in their toolbox that'll help them discern. As soon as they sign up for our newsletter, it's absolutely free. And they say, yes, I want to communicate with them because we don't spam. that right away they'll get their first download right then that is titled The 6 Arrows That Takers Shoot at Givers. And it's a great little checklist. A couple days later, they're going to get one of my favorite checklists, which is called the 25 Do's. Jeff, these are the actual 25 deeds to watch for and look. They're free. We want people to download it, put it in their pocket, and start discerning and watch what happens with your life. And then after that, every Thursday, they're going to get great new tools, and it's all 100% free because we walk our talk. We love to be able to invest and nurture people's lives, and we're givers. That's what we do. Love it.
Love it, EA. Thank you. Thank you for so much for being on the podcast.
Can I share with you one last thing my business mentor shared with me?
Go ahead.
These are the 3 things that your listeners should begin saying to themselves every morning. And my business mentor talked me into saying this to myself every morning and every day, 40 years ago. And these 3 things are as follows. I pray your business listeners begin to implement and say these 3 things and watch what they do to their setting their day up the way it should be. They are as follows. I will never give up. I will keep rising up, and I will always overcome.
Love it. What a great way to end the podcast. I appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate you listening. Have an amazing rest of your day. Rise, fight, love, repeat. Get after it. I'll talk to you soon.
Boom.
Thank you for listening to the Morning Fire for Entrepreneurs podcast. You now have the knowledge, but without action, knowledge is useless. Choose to act. Choose to step into your greatness and unlock that hero inside of you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review so more entrepreneurs can hear this message. If you absolutely love this podcast, which I hope you do, then share it up with someone you know who might see benefit from it. Become that beacon of change, and together we can impact the world.